Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last class where we're going to be learning new things. It's not going to take too long, actually. We only have a couple more slides to go. Probably we will be done in about 45 minutes or so. So let's get right into it. Um, in terms of body tissues, there are actually different categories, four categories specifically. And we're going to start with the first one right here, which is called the epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue. I'm going to summarize all these things on a flow chart for you at the end. So even though it's going to seem like a little bit overwhelming because of all the terms and all the new things, once I organize it for you in a chart, it's going to be much easier for you to understand and to remember. So let's start with epithelial tissue, the first of the four types that we are going to be learning. The general characteristic of epithelial tissue is that it has one side that is exposed to the outside environment, or in some cases, it is exposed to some kind of internal bodily fluid. And we call that side that's being exposed, we call that the apical side. Apical side. So if you think about like doormat or something like that, the side that you are walking on, that you're stepping on, that's equivalent to the apical side. Now, on the other side of the epithelial tissue, it is going to be attached to the rest of the body, basically. And it's kind of like, if you look at the bottom of the doormat, you see this thing that everything attaches to, right? So that lining right there is equivalent to what I'm trying to tell you, right? And that is called the basement membrane. So in this picture, we have the cells here that's forming the epithelial tissue. Another word for epithelial tissue is just epithelium. And here, this is the exposed portion. We call that the apical side. Again, it's either outside or in this case, it is facing the inside of a hollow structure like the intestine. And to glue things to the rest of the body, this outline I'm trying to draw right there, that's going to be the basement membrane. Basement membrane. And this stuff here is just basically the rest of the organ that we're looking at. Okay. So all epithelial tissue, all epithelium is going to have this particular characteristics. Right? So the basement membrane is like the back of the carpet, and the exposed surface, once again, that would be the apical side. Now we can classify the epithelial tissue based on its shape as well as the number of layers it has. In terms of number of layers, we call it simple if it's a single layer. On the other hand, if it has two or more layers, and we say stratified. Right? Simple is one layer, stratified is multiple layers. So in some places in the body, it makes sense to have a single layer. In other places, it makes sense to have multiple layers. So again, you can classify these epithelial tissue based on the number of layers or based on its shape. So there are three possible shapes. Either they are flat, in which case we call them squamous. They could be a cube, and we call it cuboidal. And if it's a column, like a rectangle, then we call them columnar. So flat is like a sunny side up egg. Okay, that's the nucleus in the middle. That's squamous. Cuboidal is like a cube, okay, with the nucleus in the middle. And then columnar, it's more like a rectangle looking thing, and the nucleus is in the middle. So these terms can be used in conjunction with one another. If you have a single layer of flattened cells, then we say simple squamous. If you have multiple layers of flattened cells, then we say stratified squamous. Okay. Now, for those of you just joining in, right, I was telling the class it's a lot of information, but don't worry, I will summarize it for you in a nice um, flow chart, and everything will be good. All right, so that's epithelial tissue. Let's go through each kind. So, simple squamous epithelium. Simple means one layer, and squamous means flat. So in this picture, we have a layer of flat cells. That's one cell, that's another cell, and they just form a nice thin sheet. Remember, there is an exposed free surface, which we call the apical side. Okay, this could be facing the inside of a hollow organs like the stomach, like the intestine, or like the blood vessels, right? And the other end that attaches it to the rest of the body, that's called the basement membrane. The little connective tissue right there, that's the basement membrane. And so, where do you find simple squamous epithelium? Simple squamous epithelium, since it's only one layer thick, it is best to put it at places where you want material to pass through easily. Okay? So one of such locations would be inside the air sacs of lungs. In the lungs, there are little spherical looking structures where you will be doing gas exchange. Okay, you'll be like getting oxygen from the air that you breathe in and removing carbon dioxide from the water, from the body. And you want the oxygen and the carbon dioxide to be able to cross these barriers easily, right? You want diffusion to be able to happen. And so it makes sense to just have a single layer of really, really flat cells. Okay. It wouldn't make sense to have these cuboidal cells, like it's really thick and it has a harder time crossing, right? And compared to if it's really, really thin, then it's going to be able to pass through much easier. Okay. So simple squamous. That's what they look like in real life. These are real pictures. These are like artist drawing. Stratified squamous epithelium. So stratify means multiple layers of flat cells. Okay. You want to have stratified squamous to protect against wear and tear. So in places where there are lots of friction, perhaps a lot of things passing through it, and you want to have these stratified squamous. So there are different versions of it. We have non-keratinized, which generally happens on the inside of the body, and then you have keratinized, which basically is like a protein that makes it what's the word I'm looking for? Like waterproof, okay? So on the surface of the skin, right, you would want to have the keratinized version, right, to create like a water repelling barrier, and you would find it um, in the palms, okay, of your hand, because like your hand touches a lot of things. You grab onto things, and a lot of these contact is actually going to easily rip off and damage cells. So by having stratified squamous at these locations, you kind of make these places more resistant to again wear and tear. Okay, you're gonna have it at the bottom of your feet. Okay, and in addition to offering protection against wear and tear, because of the keratin, It prevents desiccation as well, prevents drying up. For the inside of the body, you would find stratified squamous at, again, places where there's a lot of rubbing and exposure to extremes, like inside of the mouth, inside of the esophagus, which is the tube that carries food down to your stomach. We eat hot stuff, cold stuff, right? Sometimes, like if we eat chips, it's very sharp, right, and somewhat abrasive, and so you want these surfaces to have multiple layers to kind of protect you from cuts and from damages. Okay, I'm sure you had this experience before. Like if you eat too much of those crunchy snacks, right? Too much Doritos or something, too much popcorns, then you actually feel that the inside of your mouth becomes a little bit raw, right? That's when the stratified squamous is starting to peel away. It's like you basically introduced too much stress to the oral cavity, and even the stratified squamous is not enough to protect you from it. Okay, so that is multiple layers of flat cells, single layer of flat cells. Single layer, best for moving things across. Multiple layers, we're not concerned about moving things across. We're just concerned about having extra protection. Any questions?
Uh, Question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. I just say right. We already classify different tissues, the four different tissues.
That's right. There are four different kinds, and we are learning the first kind, which is epithelial tissue. Under epithelial tissues, there are many different kinds, and we are looking at the first kind. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, moving on. We have simple cuboidal epithelium. Okay? So one layer of cube-looking, square-looking cell. Right? For the cuboidal and for the columnar, it's just simple. Right? There's no multiple layers of these things. The cuboidal ones, they offer a little bit more protections, and they are often found around the ducts of different glands. So a gland is something that makes secretion in the body. Right? So like you might have like a sweat gland. In female, there's the mammillary gland that produce the milk. There is like the prostate gland in men, right? So all these glands, um, not always, but some of the glands, they will secrete through a duct, right? Through some kind of duct. And these ducts, the surrounding of the ducts are made up of simple cuboidal. So here, um, if you think of a duct like this, and then you take a look at it, the edge, the surrounding of the duct is made up of these single layer of cube-looking cell. And their job is to make secrete things, or in some cases, they even help absorb things. All right. Simple columnar is similar. Right? They will also help with secretion and absorption, but because they are bigger and more sturdy, they also offer some kind of protections. And generally, you will find these in like GI tracts, and also in some cases, you will find them in ducts. Like I said, it's a lot of information. I don't expect you to memorize all of these. It's just like an overview because when you learn this stuff next semester, you're gonna spend time talking about the digestive system, and then you're gonna learn about the kind of tissue that exists inside, right? For now, I just need to have like a big picture understanding of what these things are, and that should be enough. Okay. Now, there is another kind called pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium, and that is a very long name. Okay, let's try to break it down. First of all, stratify. What does stratify means again? Anybody remember? Practically, I've been telling you about it for the past 10 minutes. What's stratify? Yeah, stratify means multiple layers, right? Many layers, okay? Pseudo. Right? Anybody know what pseudo means? Like if you have a pseudonym, right? What does pseudo means? Not quite, but good try. Yeah, like a nickname. Okay, so pseudo is like fake. Like pseudonym is like a fake name, right? So what this means when you say pseudo stratify, it means it looks like it is multiple layers, but actually it's not. Right? It's just pretending to be multiple layers. Right? So these cells are in fact a single layer, but because of the way they're packed together, it gives the appearance of being multiple layers. And they have cilia on it, and it's rectangular in shape. Right? So that's what these cells are. Right? You can see that that's the columnar cell, and then you have all these cilia and you would find them in places like the respiratory tract as well as the reproductive tracts. This shouldn't be surprising to you because we learned about this way back in lecture 3 when I taught you about cilia and life flagellum. I told you the cilia are found in the trachea, in the respiratory tract, as well as the fallopian tube, right? Okay, so some epithelial cells have projections, and these are a little bit different from the cilia. So instead of having a little hair that helps move things around, some of these cells, okay, hair looks like this, okay? Hair looks like this. But sometimes it's not hair. Sometimes the cell membrane literally folds into these wavy structures, and these things are called microvilli. Microvilli. And the function of the microvilli is basically increase the surface area so that allows absorption to take place more efficiently. Okay. All right. Like I said, I know that was like a very quick, a lot of things, but let's see. Let's see how much you can identify. All right. There are some pictures here. What do you think this middle one is? First of all, let's identify the cell shape. This one, is it the flat one? Is it the square one? Or is it the rectangle looking ones? Okay, I hope you can tell these are pretty flat, okay? So if it's flat, we say squamous. And we're looking at it from the top here, actually. Because if you look at it from the side, it would be like too thin. You can't really see anything. It would just be like a line, right? So that's why usually for squamous, simple squamous, we look at it from the top, and that's what it is. Okay, how about this one here? What shape would you say they are? Yeah, these guys are pretty square looking, right? And so they are cuboidal. Boy, but with an I, and then the cuboidal, right? And a single layer. And usually you will find them around ducts. Okay, this one, you can see it's rectangle, right? So we call them no cilia. So it's just simple columnar. Now this one here is really, really crowded, right? And it's a bunch of flat cells stacked layer upon layers like a pastry, I guess, or lasagna. This is going to be stratify squamous. Stratify squamous. And over here, you can see the cilia. It looks like it's multiple layers, but actually it's not. So this one would be the pseudo stratify. Ciliated columnar. All right. That's all. So let's do a summary here. Okay. Please take the paper sideways. I'm gonna start with tissue here, and then that will be the first type of tissue, second type, third type, and fourth type. And then we're gonna like write a bunch of stuff like that. Okay, so please plan the space accordingly. Start with tissue right here. Okay, different types of tissue. Tissue is a collection of cells that provides like a specialized function, right? If you think about the hierarchy of organization, after cells, it's tissue. So here we have the epithelial tissue or simply just epithelium. We can separate epithelium into two kinds, simple and stratified. So there are three kinds of simple, right? Three kinds of simple squamous, cuboidal, and columnar. Now for columnar, we can have ciliated, which would be like that. We can have microvilli, which these are not hair, they're just like foldings that increases surface area. And then we also have the pseudo stratify. Okay, so it looks like they are multiple layers, but it's not. Okay, pseudo stratify, ciliated usually. Okay, now to help you organize this, I guess, I'll just put some pictures over here. I know you cannot do that on your notes, but when you download it, you will have it. That's the squamous. This is the cuboidal. And then the columnar, right? I'm just gonna put them here. Columnar. Okay. If you zoom in, you'll see it. And for stratified, there is only one kind, which is squamous, like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna put like a single word function for you. This is good for diffusion. If you're gonna use one word for this stuff, what is it good for? One simple word that captures the function of stratify squamous. It's not for diffusion. What would it be for? Good try, good try. Multiple layers. It's pretty good for protection. Okay? Protection against wear and tear. Remember, you have it in the palms, in the feet, bottom of the feet, inside your mouth and esophagus, all those places. Okay? Excellent protection. Cuboidal would be for secretion, absorption, okay? And for columnar, protection as well, secretion, and absorption. Okay, remember, you can have this note with you when you're doing the final test. Okay, I don't expect you to memorize all these things. But you will learn about all these things in greater details next semester. This is just like an overview to show you what's coming your way. Okay? Any questions? Great. All right. Which of the following best describe multiple layers of flat cells? You should know this if you have been here since the beginning of class. Which one is multiple layers of flat cells? Okay. Multiple layer is stratified, flat cells is squamous, so the answer is B. B. And best for diffusion, which one is best for diffusion? Diffusion means you want things to cross easily. Okay. The answer is simple squamous. Very good. Okay. Simple is a single layer, and squamous is like the thinnest of them all, right? So if you have one thin layer, it's much easier to diffuse across compared to like, multiple layers of something. The answer is A. Healthy trachea, which is the airway, are lined with ciliated columnar epithelium. In heavy smoker, the ciliated columnar will likely be replaced by, well, if someone smokes, then the airway is exposed to all sorts of chemical and, the smoke and the temperature and everything, right? So it makes more sense to protect the trachea, right? And when it comes to offering protection, the best kind of protection is stratified, multiple layers of squamous. It's not stratified columnar because they don't exist, right? Remember, the only kind of stratify you can have is squamous. Okay. All right. So that's it for the first type of tissue. Now we have another kind of tissues, which is connective tissue. Okay? Connective tissue. There are 7 kinds of connective tissues, which let's go through it first and then I'll try to summarize it for you. What are connective tissues? Well, as the name implies, connective tissue connects things together. They are like the glue that binds different structures together. They offer some kind of protection and support depending on which kind of connective tissue you are talking about. Bone, for example, is a connective tissue, and obviously bone has very good protection, right? They also fill up spaces, not necessarily bones, but there are other kinds of connective tissue that fills up space, and they produce red cells and store fat. Most of these connective tissues will have their own kinds of specialized cells in it, and these cells are usually embedded within some kind of um, what we call a matrix. And in that matrix, there is all sorts of stuff, sometimes organic, sometimes inorganic. For example, if we are talking about bones, then the matrix is made up of calcium. Right? If we are talking about blood as a connective tissue, then its matrix is mostly water, right? So it doesn't even have to be all solid, right? It really depends on which kind of connective tissue you are talking about. So the connective tissues are separated into two categories, soft connective tissue versus specialized connective tissue. Let's look at the soft connective tissue first. Soft connective tissue is further separated into two different kinds, loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. Under dense connective tissue, it's further separated into regular versus irregular. I know I've lost you when I said connective tissue, right? So let's put this down first, and then hopefully it'll make more sense when you see it organized nicely in a table. Okay, so this is number two, type two. Okay? Epithelium is the first type. Now we have connective tissue. Okay? By the way, epithelium is same as epithelial tissue, okay? I should probably write down there. Same thing. So for connective tissue, like I said, we have two kinds. Okay? We have soft connective tissue. Soft connective tissue. And under soft connective tissue, we have two kinds. I am so sorry with all these information. This is loose connective tissue. And opposite of loose is dense. Dense connective tissue. Okay. Let me Google a picture for you. All right, so you guys know these things. They are called packing peanut. It's like usually if you buy some kind of like electronics or something like that, and then you would have these styrofoam, right, packing peanut that fills up the space so that you're not it's gonna absorb the shock for you. It's gonna, protect whatever electronic you're buying, right? So loose connective tissue is like those packing peanut, right? They kind of, fill up the gaps here and there. They cushion your organs a little bit, and you can actually feel the loose connective tissue when pinch your skin and rub it against, rub it be between your fingers, right? So what you're feeling, the stuff that's between, underneath your skin, right? That stuff is basically the loose connective tissue. Okay, so you'll find them uh, under skin, between organs. You're packing them, like basically filling up the empty spaces between the organs. Okay, and as the name implies, they are very loosely organized. Okay, it's not very compact. All right, here is a picture of it from the PowerPoint slide. Okay, you can see that the fibers are like sparingly spaced, and then you have the cells here and there. Basically, you can think of these as like fillers. Fillers. Okay, so your body shouldn't have like any empty space inside. Right? All those empty space are filled up with some of these loose connective tissue. All right, you can see these like spider web looking appearance. That's the loose connective tissue. As for dense connective tissue, there are two kinds. They are either regular or irregular. Okay? Regular or irregular. Let me show you the picture. It should look obvious, hopefully, what the distinction is. Um, Give me a moment. I gotta snip it over. Okay, irregular is exactly as the name describes. Okay, it's like random all over the place. You can't really see any distinct pattern to it. This is, by the way, like an actual picture. It's not a drawing. And then let's take a look at regular. Okay, regular is very organized. You can see they're, all wavy, all parallel to each other. Okay, they all run in the same direction. So when it comes to strength, the irregular kind, uh, oh, I'm so sorry. I put it in the wrong place, didn't I? Totally swapped them. Okay. This is regular. It looks, like there's organization to it, and this is irregular. So when it comes to strength, okay, the regular dense connective tissue is going to offer much more strength. Like if you're gonna make a strong rope, you need all the strands to be intertwined together and going in the same direction, right? And that's what this is going to provide. And you will need these kind of dense, regular connective tissue at places like tendons, okay, and ligaments. Tendons, if you don't know, they join muscle to bones, whereas ligaments, they connect bones to bones. Right? Either way, it needs to be some strong, tough um, tape, I guess, if you would, and that's what the dense, regular connective tissue is going to be able to offer. The irregular stuff, it's once again more for like fillers, okay, packing things. So you will find dense, irregular connective tissue again under the skin, along with the loose stuff, and you will find them inside hollow organs as well. Okay, so that's the soft connective tissue. Right? There's three kinds: under soft, loose dense, and then regular irregular. All right. Then over here we have the other category of connective tissue, which is specialized. Specialized connective tissue. Okay, specialized. The first kind is, let me just do it in the same order as the PowerPoint slides. The first kind is cartilage. Cartilage. Do you know where in the body will you find cartilage? Give me some examples. Where will you find cartilage? Nothing fancy, okay? Just something on your face that's made up of cartilage. Anything? On the head that's made of cartilage? Yep. The nose, nose is made of cartilage. And the ears are made of cartilage. right? So here they are. There are three different kinds of cartilage depending on where you find it, okay? The airway has cartilage in it, the ear has cartilage in it, and then between the bones of your backbone, there are cartilage as well. As you age, this stuff gets weaker, and sometimes it might like slipped out. We call that a slip disc, and you will have to do physio to kind of stretch your back up a little bit and alleviate some of the pressure. Okay, so different kinds of cartilage. Okay, next, after cartilage, we have adipose tissue. Adipose tissue, which is just a fancy word for fat. Okay. So the adipose tissue is useful for um, storing energy, right, in the form of fat, and it is going to help insulate and protect organs as well. Okay, so energy storage, insulate, and cushion major organs. Right? Cartilage offers flexibility. Okay, and they are also good for uh, mostly flexibility. We'll just say flexibility. They also offers like wear and tear protections. Because you will have a bit of cartilage at the joint. Um, but let's just say offer flexibility as the main one. Okay. Next one for specialized is going to be bones. If you look at bones under the microscope, they look like this. Okay, look like tree rings, right? Little circles, right? And these are basically mostly calcium. And let me zoom in a little bit for you. You see these holes right here? That's where the bone cells are gonna be living in. Right? Like I said, you will learn about all these things and the details next semester. So what are bones for? Well, they actually do a lot of things, right? Support, right? Motion, store minerals. They actually make blood cells as well. Right? So to name a few, support and protection. Your skull is going to protect your brain, for example. Totally running out of space here. But the last kind we're going to talk about is blood. And let me copy over the blood picture. Right here, there's the blood. There are different kinds of blood cells. We have red blood cells, which is for oxygen transport. We have white blood cells for immunity. And we also have platelets for blood clot. If you have a cut, it is the platelets that will help you form the clot and stop the bleeding. That's all for connective tissue. All right. Okay, let's see if there's anything you can identify from this picture. Let me know. Anything at all. What do you see? Okay, let's put some numbers to this thing. Oh, you can't even see my pen. Okay, one, two, three, four, five, six. Okay, let me know. What do you see? Not feel like participating, guys? That's okay. This is the tree ring looking one. This is the bones, okay? Bones. Okay, bones. And over here, we have the adipose tissue. Adipose. Blood. You can see the red cells here. These purple ones, they're white cells. This one that looks kind of like little plastic beads all over the place, that's cartilage. Okay, there might be pictures on the final test for you to identify, okay? And then this one here is dense connective tissue. Do you think this is regular or irregular? Yep, that would be regular. Thank you, Sophia, because they're like all parallel, right? Very good. And then over here, this is like all over the place. So this is just loose connective tissue. Okay. So dense connective tissue is like in the notes I told you, it's like the tendons and then the ligaments, and then over here, we have the fat, which is for storage of energy, cushioning, so on and so forth, right? So basically refer to the table, and then you're going to be fine. All right, next we have muscles and neurons. I'm just going to put them in the notes here and finish it for you. Oh, it's getting very messy. Okay, muscle. That's an other kind of connective tissue. Okay. So muscle has three kinds. Three kinds of muscles. I will copy it over for you. Actually, you know what? Let me write down first. We have skeletal.
Question.
Yeah,
Muscle is a different tissue or is part of connective tissue?
it's its own category. Yeah,
It's your own category. Okay.
that's right. Yeah. So over here, you can see tissue. We have epithelial tissue, connective tissue, and then muscle is its own thing. So skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Okay. So skeletal, I mean, we describe it based on two things. Okay. We will say skeletal is voluntary. That means you can control it, and then it's striated. Please do not confuse striated with stratify. Stratify is multiple layers. Striated means it has banding patterns in it. Let me show you a picture and you will understand. This is skeletal muscle under the microscope. You can see the bands, right? It's like the what do you call those things? Like on the street, like when you cross the like the cross row. I think that's what they're called, right? Like the white and black stripes, right? So they're like intercalated like that. It's voluntary. That means you can control it. Do you know any? Yeah, the crossing row. Thank you. The do you know any examples of any muscle that you can control? Okay. The name of any muscle that you can control in the body. Biceps, very good. Okay, so example here is biceps. Biceps. If you know another name of any muscle, let me know. Okay, I'll write down. Sure. Yeah. If you know biceps, you're gonna know triceps, right? Okay. So there are lots of muscles in the body. If you work out, yeah, and you do bench press or something, then you're working on your chest. It's called pectoralis major. Some of you might know that if you work out a lot. People say the pecs, right? Okay, smooth muscle. Yeah, quadriceps, hamstring, excellent. All these things are voluntary. Anything that you can control voluntarily, it's skeletal muscle. Smooth muscle is involuntary. Okay, they are smooth. That means they are non-striated. You do not see the banding patterns. Okay, let me give you a picture. There you go. Let me zoom in for it. You don't see the bands, right? You don't see the bands. No bands. It's all smooth muscle. So where do you find smooth muscles? Right? In GI tract. See, you don't have to think about the food moving through your body. It automatically moves through your intestine, right? Um, the muscle that propels the food forward in your GI tract, that's smooth muscle. In blood vessels, when your blood pressure drops, the blood vessels automatically will squeeze to increase the blood pressure. And that is also done by smooth muscle. Okay, finally, cardiac is involuntary. You don't control it. They are striated. And there is only one place where you will find cardiac muscle. The name pretty much tells you where that is in the heart. That's right. So there you go. Three kinds of muscle. And finally, the last kind of tissue on its own is nervous tissue. Nervous tissue. Okay, so nervous tissue is basically like a nerve cell, right? So you learn more about them, a lot more about them next semester, but they tend to look like this, okay? Look like a dandelion that's exploding, okay? So there's a tail, there's a body, and the key thing to remember here for neuron is that uh, there are three kinds: sensory, interneuron, and motor neuron. Okay, so what do they do? Sensory neuron detects a change, maybe in the environment, that the light is really bright, or they detect a temperature change. The interneuron is going to decide what to do. It's going to process information. And then the motor neuron is going to uh, uh, um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's gonna help send a signal to trigger a response. So for example, you're driving, you see a rabbit crossing the street. That's your eyes will pick that up, and the sensory neuron will send it to the brain. And then the interneuron in the brain will be like, oh, I don't want to run over the bunny. I better step on the brakes. And then the motor neuron is going to send that command to your feet. And so you step on the brake, and that completes the process, right? Much of what we do every day involves this kind of a loop. Okay, you pick up cues from the environment, and then you decide what to do with it. Sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. Okay, and then the motor neuron is gonna, you know, instead of like triggering a response, it's gonna inhibit a response, for example. Okay. So there you have it. That's it, guys. That is all the different types of tissues. I mean, definitely print this out, reorganize it, and have it around you when you're doing the test. This is our last class together. Next Monday, there will be no class. You can just spend the time doing review. I will post a review video along with the review sheet after class today. And on the Wednesday next week, you just do your final test, and that's it. Okay. So thank you very much. It has been a pleasure having you guys. You guys are great with the attendance. Well, not today. Today, not as high as usual, but generally, you guys are pretty good. I had a lot of fun teaching you guys. Hopefully, I'll see you again next semester. All the best, guys.
So I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, on Wednesday we have already biology chemistry test. I don't know if it's how we can manage that.
Yeah, I mean, like, so you do have a whole week to prepare for that, though, right? So I think I'm gonna keep it where it is. It's not super difficult. I don't think the final test. So I think it should be okay. All right. I'm gonna keep it as it is right now.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, take care, guys. Good luck. Email me if you need help. Okay. Enjoy your break. Bye for now.